Story time. You know, I just want to tell you this story. I was thinking about what are the most prominent disasters that I have encountered being a nomad. And I thought of an incident 3 years ago. I was in Reno, and I went from Reno to Salt Lake City. I wanted to work at Amazon just for a short time. I was waiting for things to cool down in southern Arizona. So I applied on Amazon, and there was an opening in Salt Lake City. So I went there. It took a full day to drive there. It was a beautiful drive. And I had about a week before it actually started. So I was getting to know the parks. There was it's called Liberty Park. That was a pretty interesting park. A lot of happenings. I got my slack line out, things like that. So I spent some time in Salt Lake City. I think it was about a week. What I did was I slept in the parking lot of Amazon, which was outside the city. I slept there every night. So it was kind of a drive in. And then at the end of the day, I drove to Amazon, just getting used to it. I was kind of parked away from everybody. I did get a knock on the door, and they said, I said, well, I'm going to be working at Amazon in just a few days, and I'm just spending the night here in my car. And he said, oh, that's fine. He says, but you need to park a little bit closer to everybody else, because he said there's been some break-ins of cars. So I said, okay. So I did, started at Amazon. I loved where they put me in. They put me in the docks. And I loved it because I got to move around a lot. And I didn't have to just stand in one place. I previously worked at Reno. And I pretty much was in receiving and the lines, the conveyors coming down. It was like I had to kind of stand there. I don't like to do a lot of standing. I'm a very active person. Okay, so I'm there. I will tell you, I loved it. And I really wanted to stay a couple months, but it was getting towards October. Well, I worked 3 days. That's all I worked, and then I had some days off. 2 days off. No, I think 3 days off. You work like 10-hour shifts for 4 days. So I had 3 days off. Well, the last of my 3 days off, I was at this really cool park. It was getting cold. Oh yeah, I was starting to get cold. It did look like snow clouds coming in. I remember doing a video. I'll leave the link for the video because I remember I did a bunch of shout outs for everybody. This was 3 years ago. It was probably 3.5 years ago at this point. And I just did a bunch of shout outs. It took a long time to edit, and I'm sitting out, and I was in my minivan, sitting here doing my thing, and I looked out. It was snowing. There was snow. There was like this much snow on the ground. I must have really been involved in my video because I had no idea that it was snowing. It was pretty cool. I'll show you a little bit of footage of that. It was pretty darn cool. Well, it was kind of crazy driving, and I thought, well, I better get to Amazon now because I don't know how the roads are going to be. I haven't driven in snow in years, I tell you. So I went to Amazon. Touch and go. So when I was pulling out of the park, I was doing a little bit of sliding. It was like, oh my gosh. But once I got on the main road, it had melted by then. So I was ready to go into work. I slept and I woke up early morning. I thought, oh my gosh. Yeah, it looked pretty bad out. It looked like it was going to snow some more. And something just told me, get out, leave. Here goes a train by. You need to leave Salt Lake City. You could get really stuck here. So it was kind of funny back then. I don't know how they do it now. But Amazon at Salt Lake City, the first time ever, because I worked at a few Amazons, they actually gave me, right off the bat, they gave me some personal days and some vacation days. I think they gave me like 5 personal days. I just started. I'd only worked there 3 days. Well, I got on right away and I resigned. What I did was I added all those 5 personal days on, so I actually was going to get paid for 3 and then 5, which is like, wow. And I resigned. If you resign properly on Amazon and you go through the whole system of what they want you to do online, then you're good to go. You can still get rehired down the road. So I resigned and I thought, I got to go now. I got to go now. Now's the time. I got to get out of town. So, okay, so I'm going to leave Salt Lake City. And I was going south, and I can't even tell you what the highway is. I probably should have looked that up for you, but it was a highway. And it went to, I think it went all the way down to St. George, and then I was going to go to Las Vegas. So my goal was to reach Las Vegas and sleep there. Wow. Oh my gosh. I really thought, I didn't think I was going to die, but I thought I was probably going to lose my van and maybe get hurt. I'm driving, and all of a sudden, I couldn't see much. It started snowing. I could hardly see anything ahead of me. And I will tell you, there was no shoulder. The whole way, there was like barely any shoulder, and it was so small. And had I pulled off, somebody would have hit me because nobody could see ahead of them. It became like this really weird blizzard. It really wasn't snowing that hard, but what happened was it froze so quickly. So my windshields are going back and forth, and I'm following a semi, and we're going maybe like 25, 30 miles an hour, right? Oh my gosh. This was like, I was really, I will say that I was just like so tense. I was like holding onto the steering wheel. After a while, my windshield wipers became popsicles. They were gathering ice. And the only thing I could see out my windshield was a little hole about that big. And all I was doing was following the trucks, the semi-trucks, tracks. Well, I am quite serious. This went on for a good hour. I would go past an exit, but it would say no service. So basically, I was just going to get stuck on a road if I pulled off. And it would have been, so I waited a good hour. I'm exhausted. And I'm driving like this. I'm just staring at that little hole that's left. If that would have dried up on me and totally frozen over, I would have been a dead duck. Yeah, my name would have been Mud. So I'm looking out this little hole, and I'm just driving. I'm tense, probably gritting my teeth, sweating, and just it was exhausting. Well, I would have loved to have filmed it, but there was no way. I was just there concentrating on that little hole. I literally, I've never experienced that before. And I grew up in Ohio. I mean, I didn't leave Ohio till I was like 20 years old. So I drove since I was 16. I drove in snow in Ohio. And my parents drove, and yeah, I've never seen anything like that. That my windshield wipers just froze up. They became like those Otter Pops. So no, not Otter Pops, but those one Pops. They're about that big around. Yeah. Well, finally, okay. To end that, finally, my I saw a exit, and you just don't know the relief. I mean, I was exhausted by then. I was just frightened. And I got off there, and that was even touch and go on the road. It was kind of slippery. We had to go real slow. Well, as I remember getting off finally, I didn't even know if I was going to even make it there. There were banks of snow, and it was just touch and go. I could barely see, trying to keep going so I could get there properly. There was a chevron, I remember this. It was a flashbulb moment. There was a chevron on the right side of it, but there was a shell on the left side, a shell. And there was hardly anybody at there. I think they probably had higher gas. Sometimes Shell has higher gas. Anybody was going to the chevron. Well, I went to the Shell, and I got under the roof part, and I just stopped the car, and I just I think I collapsed. I was just, I was exhausted. Finally, I got out and made some sense of what happened to my windshield wipers. And I actually forget what I did. What did I do? I don't know if they just melted. I didn't want to break them. I don't know what I did to melt that off, but maybe I just started pulling it off. But it was about on the thing. So what happened was, it was like a popsicle, frozen ice, and it was just going over and over and over, just collecting more and more and more ice. So, anywho, that was crazy. I stayed there for a good couple hours. And if somebody would ever pull in, I would get out and go ask them. I go, how are the roads? What's going on out there? And finally, about 2 hours later, somebody said that they're getting it cleaned off, and the snow is letting up. The roads are clean now. I was like, okay. I remember calling my son and just telling him what happened, and just regaling my tale like I'm doing right now. It was the worst driving condition I've ever dealt with. And like I said, I lived in upper Ohio, so wow. And it snowed quite a bit. Well, got everything cleaned off, gassed up, went in, I think I got some snacks, and I was ready to get back on the road. So, but it's not over. Oh my gosh. So I got to Las Vegas. Oh yeah. And guess where I went? I went to there's an Amazon. I punched that in because I knew that. This was 3.5 years ago. I mean, well, it would be it has to be about 3.5, almost 4 years ago. Anywho, I hadn't met Paul yet. I had, this was way a long time ago. And so I stayed at the Amazon there. I went to Amazon and I slept. Very good. Well, Las Vegas was a whole lot hotter. Basically, when I was in Las Vegas, it was like summer. This was like the end of September. It was a freak snow, I think. It was the end of September. Of course it's going to be hot in Las Vegas. It's going to be hotter in some respects than Tucson. And they don't really cool down until December. Okay, so I got on the road and I thought, with all that snow, I want to get back on the road. I always like to drive with a clean car. I just think, I've actually studied this, the psychology of not criminality, but, police work, things like that, the psychology of that. And really, statistic-wise, if you have a really dirty car and you're on the highway, your chances are a little bit higher that you're going to get pulled over. It's psychology. What can I say? So I'm looking for, and I'm trying to follow the way to go. And Las Vegas highways, oh my gosh, they're busy. I think it was like a Monday morning. Oh my gosh, yes, it's just, yeah. Well, I got stuck in the wrong road, and as I'm pulling in, I realized I can't get out. I'm going into a military base. I thought, oh my gosh, and I have a firearm too. And I thought, oh man, no, please no. So when I pulled up to the window, I finally pulled up and I said, sir, I'm not supposed to be here. I got in the wrong line, and I want to leave. Can I leave? And he started laughing. He goes, give me your ID. You go this way. When you start going out, I'll have somebody else hand it to you. I'm going to go, thank you, sir. I just want to go. By then I'm just freaked out. I'm solo female, and I just want to get to Tucson. I just want to get there. Okay, so I go by and he hands me his my ID, and I get on the road, get back on the highway. Well, I'm still in Las Vegas. I'm not. The final blow was I'm driving, and in the middle of the highway, it's like a 4-laner. There is a big a dumpster bin, like the kind that you would drag out. It's got the wheels, big green one that you drag out for your homes. You drag them out by the street in the middle of the highway. Oh my gosh. So I had to make a quick decision and looking to see, can I get over it? I got over it. I missed it. That I could have smashed my windshield, caused an accident. I thought, I got to get the heck out of here. This is very evil here. So that was the most harrowing 2 days of traveling I have ever experienced as a nomad. And I just wanted to let you know that. I've had some harrowing experiences. Probably the scariest one, and I always mention it, was in El Paso. Going through, I hadn't quite got to El Paso yet. It was getting towards El Paso. And I got stopped by a border patrol. And what happened before that is there was this border patrol. And he's just going, and he's on the highway. It's 75 miles an hour, right, on I-10. And he's going like 65. And I thought, you son of a gun. Because now he's playing with everybody. And it just kept going on and on and on. I'd see him, he's going 65. It was freaking everybody out. Well, there was a person who had pulled off of the road. And you know how you're supposed to like go around, you don't want it, so you want to get in the other lane. Well, when I went in the other lane, he said that I cut somebody off. I don't think I did. I mean, I'm not 100%, but I don't think I did. If there was somebody behind me, he should have gotten over also. So he pulled me over. I pulled over, and I did that video on how to deal with a traffic stop. Well, I did everything opposite of what I said on that video from a couple weeks ago. Everything, and it was because of this incident in El Paso that I did research on how you're supposed to deal with the traffic stop. And he was very slick. He was very deviously slick, and he was just trying to get me to talk, and I was just doing it. I was just talking. He told me I'd never heard of anybody living in their minivan. He goes, I've never heard of that. And I said, oh yeah, a lot of people do that. He goes, well, I've never heard of that. He thought I was a runner, a mule. Maybe I had drugs in my minivan. So I've always said, hey, grandmas, grandpas, it doesn't matter if you're a grandma and grandpa anymore. They don't give us any accolades, on that. They'll treat us the same as anybody else as a criminal. Those days are gone. So, he held me. I found out later he held me way longer. And I didn't even know that you should say, am I being detained or am I free to go? And I should have said that. I thought he had his hand reached in my van. He had through the passenger door, and I realized he was going through my underwear when I was all said and done. I came in there, he had my underwear all messed up. I'm like, and I don't really wear sexy underwear. I thought, what the heck's he doing? I thought he was planting drugs. And then he said, well, I can't really. Eventually, about 45 minutes later, he goes, well, I can't. You got too much in your car. I can't, go through everything. I'm going to have to call in the dogs, the smelling dogs. And I said, please do it and hurry up. I want to get going. And I guess he called his supervisor, the chief. And, I've never been arrested, so he let me go after an hour. And I've read thus that 30 minutes is your limit. They have to either arrest you or something. I thought I was going to lose my van. That was the most scary. Because I thought, this is it. I'm going to go to jail. And there were no drugs in here, but here's the deal. What they can do is they can plant drugs in here. And then so I said, well, he said, well, you just seem so nervous. And I said, well, of course I'm nervous. And he goes, well, yeah, at school, I think he was brand new. He goes, well, at school, they always say, if you seem nervous. I said, that doesn't tell you anything. I have a psych degree. People get nervous. You're being pulled over. Come on. And here's what the real deal was. See that little blue thing right there? It's from this. I know. Yeah, let's get this. Here's what I thought. Just because he let me go, finally he wrote me up a warning. Yeah, after an hour, he wrote me a warning. I thought what he was doing is planting something in here, and then he's going to have a trap for me. Called one of his buddies, and on my way out of El Paso, he's going to stop me, and then they were going to find drugs in here. I mean, really? Yeah, I was really scared. I by the time I got to Las Cruces, I was a basket case by then too. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So a lot of you said, well, you didn't tell the story about El Paso. Well, that was the story. He was a young, gung-ho Border Patrol. And I don't know if you know it or not, I've thus researched Border Patrol. Border Patrol has jurisdiction over 100 miles, the entire perimeter of the United States. That goes with Canada, Maine, New York, all the way down to Florida, and all the way around the Border Patrol has jurisdiction over 100 miles perimeter of the entire United States. That's a lot of square mileage. Oh my gosh. And they have a lot of power too. So I was scared. I was really scared. I don't like going through Texas at all anymore. I avoid Texas like the plague, actually. I was gonna go see my friend in Florida not too long ago. I was gonna go all the way around it. I didn't care. I don't like Texas. And a lot of you say, oh, I've heard people say, oh, I feel safe in Texas. I don't. And I don't hate Texas. I'm just uncomfortable with it now. I guess it's just PTSD. Oh my gosh. And the snow, yeah. So I hope you enjoyed these stories. I'm sure you have perilous. Go ahead and leave me a story. I will read it on here if you want to tell me a story. And it can be a short story. Just leave me short stories. Or it can be long. I don't care. And I'll read them and we'll talk about them. The perilous things that happen as a nomad. Or you might know a nomad who had something really scary and perilous happen. Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah, the snow, Amazon. So as far as Amazon goes, there's hardly any jobs right now. After COVID, everything changed. It did. Everything changed. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I did work in Tucson for a few days there. And at that time, they really didn't have to wear masks, but you could if you wanted to. I don't know. It hadn't really become a policy yet, but it's few and far between trying to find jobs at Amazon now. The way I did when I first became a nomad, I could go almost anywhere, and if I was close there, I would just apply. Take me 2 days to drive there, and I drive because usually they want to set up an appointment for like 2 days ahead. Yeah, so you got to be able to get there. You can't be from one end of the country to the other. You got to be able. Don't apply until you get. Closer. Yeah. Well, please subscribe, everybody. Love you guys. Really helps me out when you subscribe. And check me out tomorrow. I got some news. Bye, everybody. Mwah. I love you guys so much. Bye.